Water and land resources are essential to production of the products we consume. For dairy, without land for feed production, there is no dairy production that can go on. If it does not rain, there is again no feed production, hence no milk production. Land and water footprints look at both direct and indirect water and land use of a process, product, company, or sector, and includes resource consumption and pollution throughout the full production cycle, from farmer to the tables of consumers. The water and land use are assessed over the production cycle of the animal. For dairy, this is over the lactation cycle of a cow and is then expressed as the annual amount for standardization of the estimates. The water footprint measures the amount of water used to produce each of the goods and services used in dairy production. It is usually measured in cubic meters per ton of milk produced. The water footprint has three components: green, blue, and gray. Together, these components provide a comprehensive picture of water used by delineating the source of water consumed, either as rainfall, soil moisture, or surface groundwater, and the volume of fresh water required for assimilation of pollutants. The largest proportion of water used in the livestock value chain is linked to the production of the feed that the animals consume. Water that is drank by the livestock, washes the animal stalls, or other dairy facilities along the chain mostly contributes to between 2 to 10% of the total resource used. Land use within a zone system is estimated based on the land used for domestic production of the feed consumed by the cow. For dairy production, focus is mainly on grassland or cropland used, as these two land types are essential in meeting the dairy production needs. Land footprint is measured in hectares of land used per ton of milk produced. Both resource indicators are determined by 1. The feed consumed per animal. 2. Zone-specific milk and crop yields of both the cow and the feed crops. And 3. Whether the feed crops are produced locally or imported from other zones. The feed types in dairy production are mainly pasture, which includes hay and silage, planted forage, crop residues, and compounded feed and supplements. The proportion of these feed types in the daily rations of the cows varies depending on the dairy production practices. Assessing the water and land footprint in agriculture. The two indicators allow us to answer a broad range of questions in agriculture. In dairy production, the aim is towards improving production and ensuring that producing milk on the farms does not deplete the water or land resources in the area. Some specific questions that can be answered are: how can this approach help in land use planning? By identifying areas where production can be carried out more efficiently, and therefore lowering the negative impacts on land and water resources, and ensuring good overall ecosystem and human health. Which additional stakeholders can be targeted other than farmers? For instance, regulators such as water and land boards who would like to know how well regulations are protecting the water and land resources under their jurisdictions. If the regulations best captures the agricultural requirements in the areas they oversee. At a broader scale, it is possible to estimate the total consumption of the water and land resources within a region, e.g., a river basin, a country, or globally, that is focused on milk production by use of these two indicators. The water or land footprint amounts would then be able to help us understand where exactly our limited freshwater or land resources are being consumed and polluted. For example, the greater impact is felt when water resources are consumed in seasons or regions of scarcity. For land, this is witnessed when there is a drive to produce feed on land that is already dedicated to production of food for human consumption in many arable areas, like the highlands, or for nature, as in forested areas. This will then determine the actions to be taken in averting crises or ensuring minimal impacts on the resource base and the environment. Overall, this information is important in making sure that milk production is sustainable, that the ecosystems within which this is carried out are able to function well, and that biodiversity is maintained at recommended levels. Also, that other users of resources are not denied the resource due to overconsumption of the water and land resources by dairy production. For farmers, this would mean the improvement of their production practices to include, for instance, intercropping, proper management of manure from farms, good animal husbandry to minimize wastage, and proper use of water resources if they are channeled to the farms for irrigation, so as not to abstract more than what one is allocated. For extension workers and policymakers, the message would include looking at a collection of farmers in a region and ensuring that the land and water resources are allocated equitably. This will ensure that protected areas for nature and other environmental or ecosystem services are maintained, while also providing for the optimal production of milk.